love talking.
We're live now. Good morning, this is Julia Widup with Talk Story TV, and once again we have Marilyn Redmond with us, and she's going to be talking to us about her journey through domestic violence.
Good morning, Julia.
Hi. So we're on the last part of your journey, so tell us how that went.
Well, I had a very unusual experience. I never thought I would see my ex-husband again. After the divorce, I thought, yay, yippee skippy, that's over with, and I'm just going to walk away and have a good life, and I'll never see him again. And never thought about anything in the future. And it so happened about 18 years later, our twin grandsons were ready to graduate from high school. And my daughter called me up and said, well, I've asked you and I've asked Dad to the graduation, and how you want to handle it is up to you. And I immediately panicked, because that put me right back into my victim feelings and my little girl feelings of 3 years old, and scared spitless, because it was, he tried to kill me several times. I tried suicide over this silly marriage. And I just totally went back bonkers. And, you asked me about 12-step programs, and my sponsor said, you have too much growth, you've done too much work on yourself, and you're going to own it. So she worked like a Dutch uncle with me to regroup and get back into the growth I'd accomplished, and actually emotionally had some integrity with it, and actually kind of incorporated it into more of who I was instead of a facade. And I was feeling pretty good about that. Then a friend spoke up and said, what a wonderful opportunity to get him to sign off on the water share you have. I was always too afraid, even during the divorce, to ask him to sign this paperwork. So I would, when we built our house, it was a water share, was a co-op, and both of us signed, and the company wouldn't let me take his name off from the divorce. He had to sign it and had to be notarized for legal reasons. So I figured, I was stuck with his name on it, and if I ever sold, something would have to happen about that. But I wasn't planning on taking the paperwork with me to Boise to get him to sign it. But it seemed like the most logical at the time, because I was thought that I probably would not see him again, which is, in this case, has happened. So again, I went into panic. I was going to have to not only be around him, I was going to have to speak to him and ask him to sign this paper, and it would be in front of a notary. And so again, I panicked, and my sponsor said, you can do this, you can do it, you're able to handle all of this nowadays. You're doing much better. This is not an issue, and you're able to handle it. So I drove, my boyfriend was with me, and we drove to Boise from Seattle. And it was a lovely trip, nice weather, and about an hour before Boise, the cell phone rang. And it was my daughter, and she called up to see how close we were, so she's fixing dinner and when to have dinner ready. So we're on the phone chatting away. Yeah, we're about an hour away. Oh, she says, that'll work out just fine. Oh, by the way, she said, Dad's not coming to dinner tonight. And I thought, oh, I'm off the hook for this evening. I don't have to be around him. And I felt pretty good. And then she said, see, I really didn't want to ask him to sign the paperwork. That was a huge struggle. So this is how the universe works. Because I finally agreed that I would take the paperwork and follow through, even though it was my worst situation
Yeah,
ever, I felt.
you could imagine.
She says, "Oh, by the way, Mom," she says, "why don't you give me the paperwork tonight, and I'll go with Dad in the morning. He's right across the street from a notary, and we'll go over and get it signed and notarized, and I'll give it back to you."
Oh,
Oh, I didn't have to take it to a place with him and do that either. God took me off the hook for that. So I said, terrific. So we showed up at her place that night and gave her the paperwork, and she took care of it in the morning. But the rest of us were all together for the next 48 hours. And there I was around this man. And I actually was able to be there and present and in my power. And we had celebrations and a big fancy dinner at a restaurant and celebration afterwards. And of course, the ceremony was in this University of Boise auditorium, huge basketball court facility. And it was a big high school, big high school they were graduating from. So I was around him, and he even brought his fiancée. And so he made sure I didn't get close and around her to visit with her. And I really didn't have anything to say anyway. And I wasn't going to spoil their party. And so I just was keeping my mouth shut. I learned pretty good by then when to speak up and how to be a little more appropriate. So I didn't spoil the party for him. And, so we were doing having our fun and enjoying being around. And, it was a really interesting experience because I did see how much I had grown and overcome this. I saw a very broken man. His soul was not in his body. He was dark and depressed and very sad and it was kind of, I don't know what the words are, but I was heartbroken to see that he really hadn't found answers like I had. And he really couldn't function all that well. He was doing his best, but it was really, very, not like I would have liked to have seen him be. And so as we were driving home from Boise the next day, I really just couldn't believe it. There's not any good music stations between here and Boise, so my heart started singing. I'm singing in my body, in my heart, all the way home. And, I love musical comedies, and I'm singing, "Oh, What a Beautiful Day," and, "I'm a Cockeyed Optimist," and all these wonderful fun songs. All the way home, my heart was just as happy as could be. And I had the most amazing experience shortly later. I meditate a lot, and, of course, he's alive and living out of state. And he came to me in spirit, and he said, "Do you know how much I loved you to play that part?" He said, "I really didn't want to do it, but I knew that you needed someone to act that out for you so you could change your energy."
oh my
And
God.
so he said, I agreed to do it. And I was able to change my seeing, how that he actually was helping me so I could shift my energy to unconditional love, forgiveness, gratitude, and compassion. I had a lot of compassion that his abusive childhood was what he went through to be able to play that part for me, and how devastating it was to him, because I know a little bit of his history, obviously. So, and of course, I went through similar things myself as how we hooked up, because like attracts like. And so when I understood that he had become my teacher, I could actually, in my meditation, thank him for playing the part. And I started to understand the people around us are actually here playing the parts for us to grow and mature and to be empowered. And that if you're familiar with Donald Neil Walsh, wrote a wonderful children's little book, and he points out that as the main part of the story is another little angel comes down with you to play the part so you can find out how to experience love. And so I saw him from that point of view. And you're familiar with Ho'oponopono, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And so I used that quite a bit to help resolve and heal the wounds of what I went through. when I took responsibility for having written the script for all this domestic violence, that's when it changed, because I'm discovering you can't blame somebody else for what's going on with you. What you're sending out is what's coming back. And when you finally own it, when you finally get honest with yourself and say, yes, this is what's going on and I need to change me, so I send out better energy and hopefully more compassionate energy for those people around me, and then thank them for helping me out to understand that's what's going on with me, because they're my mirror. I can finally move into the love and gratitude, forgiveness and compassion that we're here to learn on earth. And everyone around me is helping me some way or another to do that. So I literally walked away from this very scary experience of someone who tried to kill me several times to feeling actually victorious, actually feeling I didn't have to be fearful anymore. I didn't have to be a victim. I could grow into maturity and empowerment. And I try to stay in that spot pretty well today. I don't walk around like a scared little girl that I was years back. I'm feeling pretty much more of a mature adult today. It feels good. I really do know the lessons. People find it's hard sometimes to look at yourself and see what you're doing that's actually causing the difficulty. Like the girl I explained earlier to you who said, well, I've been doing that, I can change it. And to take responsibility for changing our actions and our thinking and our emotions, and spiritually moving into unconditional love with everyone. We're all of the same spirit. So to come into that space of oneness is really what we're all about. And it's a marvelous place to be, being in the presence of God with joy and with gratitude. You move out of the third dimension, which is all the drama that we've been going through. And, Shakespeare was right. Our lives are plays and we're actors on the stage.
All right. And you wrote us an article about that for our blog at tvbackstory.com.
Right. And I also have videos for empowerment too, which is the solution, and about the dynamics of domestic violence, which was in our last issue of what we broadcast. And I have a website with a lot of articles and videos and interviews and things to help people. I've written a lot on Amazon.com about these issues. If people want to check that Amazon.com out, I have my first book, Roses Have Thorns, which chronicles my experiences before getting into a real recovery of what it was like. So there's a lot of things that I can offer people. I'm an international past life regression therapist, and I know today when you get down to the root cause of the situation, you can heal it and the symptoms leaves. There are no symptoms. You can actually move into a new today and give up the past emotional chains and ties that are keeping you drawn into that reactive mode. Rather, today I try to be responsive in love. And no matter what's going on, the people are wounded children out there, and it's more saying today, what can I do to help them?
Yeah.
Not to react, but to
give us the address of your website.
Oh, my website is angelicasgifts.com. One word, angelicasgifts.com. You can Google my name and it'll come up too. Angelica is my angel that helps me with counseling.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fabulous. This has been a wonderful 4 sessions, and I thank you so much for being with us, Marilyn.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's helped me a great deal too, and I hope it helps those that have been watching, and that they've learned something, that there is an answer, there's a solution that works. We can move into reality. The great reality is inside. That love has always been there. All we have to do is find it down deep inside and live in, owning that love of who we are, and it changes our life completely.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day.